On a crisp fall afternoon in the heart of New York City, Mark, a homeless man, sat huddled against the cold on a street corner. His clothes were tattered, his face unshaven, and his eyes reflected years of hardship. Holding a small, worn cardboard sign that read, "Hungry and Homeless," he watched as the crowd hustled by, too busy with their own lives to notice him. His stomach growled loudly, a familiar ache that had become a constant companion. He'd asked for help before, but most people simply ignored him, some even crossing the street to avoid eye contact. But today, something was different. As Mark prepared to call it a day, a shadow loomed over him. He looked up and saw a man in a simple hoodie and jeans, his face partially covered by sunglasses. There was something about the man that seemed familiar, though Mark couldn't quite place it. The man knelt down to Mark's level, his voice kind and steady. "Hey, how's it going, man?" he asked, his tone warm. Mark blinked, startled. No one ever spoke to him like this, let alone someone who looked like they might be an important figure. "Could be better," Mark muttered, "just trying to get enough for a meal." The man nodded, glancing at Mark's sign. He pulled out his wallet, but instead of offering just $1, he asked, "How about I do more than that? Let's get you a meal, something real to eat." Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. "You serious?" he asked, not sure if he was hearing right. "Dead serious," the man smiled, standing up and offering a hand. "Let's get you something good to eat." Mark hesitated for a moment, but the warmth in the man's eyes made him take the hand and stand up. "You like pizza?" the man asked as they walked down the street together. Mark's heart raced, unsure of what was happening but too hungry to question it. "Yeah, I love pizza," he replied, though he was starting to feel like this was some kind of dream. As they walked, Mark felt people staring at them, whispering to each other. "Why are they looking at us?" Mark asked, feeling awkward. The man laughed softly and pulled down his sunglasses. "They probably recognize me," he said with a grin. Mark's jaw dropped when he finally recognized the man's face. "Wait a minute, you're Tom Hanks." The actor nodded with a wink. "I like to keep a low profile, but today, I just want to help." Mark's emotions swelled as they entered the pizzeria, where Tom insisted he order whatever he wanted. "Don't worry about the price, man. You deserve it." The pizza was more delicious than anything Mark had tasted in years. The kindness he felt in that moment was more filling than the meal itself. Tom didn't stop there, he stayed with Mark for hours, talking to him like a friend and offering more than just a meal. It was the start of a new chapter, one that Mark never expected. As they parted ways, Tom handed Mark a card for a shelter and encouraged him to take the help he needed, reminding him that everyone deserves kindness. Mark stood there for a moment, overwhelmed, but with a renewed sense of hope for the future. What began as a simple request for $1 turned into a life-changing experience, proving that even the smallest acts of kindness can spark the most unexpected transformations. On a chilly evening in the heart of Chicago, Marcus, a homeless man, sat on the corner of a busy street. His hands trembled as he held a sign that simply read, "Hungry, anything helps." He hadn't had a meal in days, and the exhaustion in his eyes showed. The busy city buzzed around him, with people moving quickly to and from their destinations, most not even glancing at him. A few tossed a few coins into his cup, but it was never enough to fill the emptiness he felt inside. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Marcus sighed, ready to call it a night. Just as he began to pack up, a voice broke through his thoughts. "Hey, man, you hungry?" Marcus looked up to see a tall figure standing before him, his face partially hidden by a cap. The man had a calm presence about him, and there was something familiar about him. "Yeah, I am," Marcus replied quietly, feeling a spark of hope. Without hesitation, the man smiled and said, "Well, how about I get you something to eat? What do you say we grab some dinner?" Marcus blinked in surprise, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Really?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. The man grinned, pulling off his cap, revealing a face Marcus recognized instantly. "I'm Dwayne Johnson, but you can just call me The Rock." Marcus's jaw dropped. He had heard stories about celebrities giving back to their communities, but he never imagined one would offer help to him, right here on the streets of Chicago. "You serious, man?" Marcus asked, still in shock. Dwayne nodded, extending a hand to help Marcus up. "Come on, let's go get you something good. I know a place that serves the best ribs in town." As they walked down the street, Marcus felt the eyes of passersby on them. Some whispered, and others pulled out their phones to take pictures, but Dwayne walked with a confidence that made Marcus feel at ease. "Don't worry about them," Dwayne said with a laugh. "They're just jealous of your good taste in food." When they reached the barbecue restaurant, the smoky scent of ribs and grilled meats filled the air. Dwayne led Marcus inside, where the staff immediately recognized him. "What's good tonight?" Dwayne asked the waiter with a smile. "I'll have the rib platter, extra sauce, and throw in some cornbread muffins," Dwayne said as he turned to Marcus. "You pick what you want, man. Don't hold back." Marcus hesitated, then ordered a heaping plate of ribs, macaroni and cheese, and a side of sweet tea. The warmth of the meal in front of him made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time, valued. The food was delicious, but more than that, it was the kindness Dwayne showed that made Marcus feel seen and heard. They talked for hours, with Dwayne listening intently as Marcus shared his struggles, losing his job, his home, and his sense of purpose. Dwayne never interrupted, always encouraging him, making him feel like he mattered. As they finished their meal, Dwayne smiled and clapped Marcus on the back. "You don't have to thank me. Just remember, you're not alone in this. Everybody deserves a little help sometimes." Marcus left that night with more than just a full stomach. He walked away feeling like a person again, seen, respected, and hopeful. It wasn't just the meal, it was the kindness and genuine care that made all the difference. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus believed that his life could be different. After their meal, John, the homeless man, felt a sense of fullness that went beyond just his stomach. It was the kind of warmth that came from feeling truly seen and cared for. But what happened next was even more surprising. As they finished the last bites of food, the man who had transformed John's day, none other than the famous actor and philanthropist Will Smith, turned to him with a wide grin. "You ready for the next step?" Will asked, his voice casual but full of meaning. John looked up in confusion, still processing the kindness that had already been shown to him. "Next step," he echoed. Will nodded. "You've had a great meal, but now we're going to get you cleaned up. Everyone deserves to feel good about themselves, you know? Let's take care of you." John hesitated, not used to someone showing this kind of care. He hadn't had a real shower in what felt like forever, and the thought of getting pampered was foreign to him. "I don't know," John muttered, looking down at his worn clothes and dirty hands. "A place like that probably wouldn't let me in." Will paused, then placed a firm hand on John's shoulder, his gaze sincere. "Don't ever think like that, man. You are just as deserving as anyone else, and today, we're going to show you that." With that, Will led John to a nearby spa, a sleek, modern establishment with large windows that gleamed in the late afternoon sun. As they stepped inside, John felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. This was a world he didn't belong to, a world of clean floors and polished counters. But Will was beside him, giving him a reassuring nod. When they approached the front desk, the receptionist looked up, her eyes widening at the sight of Will. But when she saw John standing beside him, her smile softened. "How can I help you today?" she asked politely. Will gave her an easy grin. "I've got my buddy here, John. He needs the full works, a haircut, shave, and a hot shower. Can you hook him up?" The receptionist blinked in surprise but nodded. "Of course, we'd be happy to help." As a stylist guided John to the back, Will stayed by the door, waiting patiently. The stylist started with his hair, trimming away the tangles and matted strands. The sensation of the scissors in his hair made John feel lighter, both physically and emotionally. Next came the shave, a smooth, calming process that left John's face feeling fresh and clean for the first time in years. Finally, John was directed to the shower. The hot water felt like heaven as it washed away the grime of the streets. It wasn't just about getting clean, it was about feeling human again. As he stood there, the warmth of the water enveloping him, John allowed himself to relax for the first time in a long time. When he stepped out, dressed in new clothes that Will had thoughtfully picked up for him earlier, John hardly recognized the person in the mirror. The man looking back at him had a clean face, a fresh haircut, and a smile that hadn't been there for years. Will was waiting for him outside the spa, a wide grin on his face. "Look at you, man," he exclaimed, his voice full of admiration. "You clean up real nice." John laughed softly, still in disbelief. "I don't even know what to say," he muttered, feeling both humbled and grateful. Will clapped him on the shoulder. "No need to say anything. You just got a little reminder of what it's like to be treated with dignity. Everyone deserves that." As they left the spa together, John felt like a new person, not just on the outside, but on the inside too. The self-care he had received wasn't just about looking better, it was about being reminded that he mattered, that he was worth more than just a passing glance on the street. Will's kindness had given him more than just a clean slate, it had given him hope. After their visit to the spa, James, the homeless man, felt like a new person. His clothes were clean, his face was fresh, and his spirits, once weighed down by years of struggle, were beginning to lift. But the surprises weren't over. As they left the spa, the man who had changed James' life, none other than the celebrated actor and philanthropist Ryan Reynolds, turned to him with a smile. "You know, James, we're not done yet," Ryan said, his voice full of warmth and enthusiasm. "Now that you're feeling good and looking sharp, let's get you some new clothes. You deserve to start fresh, and I'm going to make sure you do." James felt his heart swell at the thought. He hadn't bought new clothes in years. The idea of walking into a store with a new look felt both thrilling and nerve-wracking. "New clothes?" James asked, almost laughing at the idea. "I don't know if I can do that, man." Ryan laughed softly, his eyes filled with genuine kindness. "Of course, you can. You've already done the hard part. Now it's time to treat yourself." They walked together to a high-end shopping mall, the sounds of bustling shoppers and soft music filling the air. As they entered a stylish clothing store, the employees greeted Ryan like an old friend. But it was clear that they were just as kind to James, offering him a welcoming smile. Ryan turned to James and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Pick out whatever you need, man. Don't hold back. This is your moment." For the first time in years, James felt a rush of excitement as he scanned the racks of clothes. He hesitated at first, unsure of what to choose, but Ryan's encouragement gave him confidence. "Go ahead, try on whatever catches your eye," Ryan said, his voice reassuring. James picked out a few shirts, a couple of jeans, and a sturdy pair of sneakers. The clothes felt soft in his hands, a stark contrast to the old, worn-out garments he'd been wearing for so long. As he tried them on, something shifted within him. It wasn't just the new clothes, it was the feeling of being worthy of something better. When they reached the checkout counter, Ryan paid for everything without hesitation, even joking with the cashier as they finished up. "You've got a whole new look now, James," Ryan said, handing him the bags. "This is just the start of something new. You deserve the best." James looked down at the new clothes in his hands, overwhelmed with gratitude. "I don't even know how to thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You don't need to thank me," Ryan replied with a gentle smile. "Just promise me you'll take this chance and keep moving forward." Life's about new beginnings, and you're on your way. As James left the store, his heart was full. He wasn't just walking out with new clothes, he was walking out with a new sense of self-worth, a fresh start, and the belief that he deserved something better. Ryan's generosity had given him more than just material things, it had given him the courage to believe in a future full of possibilities. After the shopping spree, as they sat on a bench outside the store, a sense of peace settled over Adam, the homeless man who had once been lost in the struggles of survival. The clothes, the meal, the kindness, everything felt like a new beginning. But there was still one more piece of wisdom that Adam had yet to hear. "You know," said Will Smith, looking at Adam with a thoughtful expression, "this isn't just about you getting a new look or a good meal. It's about something much bigger." Adam, still absorbing everything that had happened, glanced at Will, unsure of what he meant. Will smiled, his eyes sincere. "It's about paying it forward. Once you're back on your feet, I want you to help others the way I've helped you. There's always someone out there who needs a little kindness, a little lift. And I know you've got it in you to be that person." Adam's eyes filled with emotion as Will's words sank in. He had never really thought about helping others before, he had been too focused on his own struggles. But hearing it from someone like Will, someone who had been in his shoes in the past and had risen to help others, made Adam believe it was possible. Maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference in someone else's life one day. "Promise me, Adam," Will said, his voice firm but kind. "Promise me you'll pass it on when the time comes." Adam nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I promise," he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. Will clapped him on the shoulder, a broad smile crossing his face. "Good. I know you'll do great things. You're already on the right path." As Adam walked away that day, with a fresh sense of purpose and the resources he needed to turn his life around, he couldn't stop thinking about Will's words. For the first time in a long time, Adam felt that he wasn't just a bystander in his own life. He felt like he was part of something bigger, a chain of kindness that could stretch across the world. And when the opportunity came for him to help someone else, he would remember Will's example and pass it on, just as he had been shown. With the help of Chris, the famous actor who had shown him so much kindness, and the shelter Chris had connected him to, Mark began to rebuild his life. The resources at the shelter provided more than just a roof over his head, they offered guidance, counseling, and access to job training. For the first time in years, Mark felt like he had a chance. Every morning, he woke up with a renewed sense of purpose, motivated by the belief that his circumstances didn't define him. It wasn't easy at first. Mark faced the reality that his past mistakes and struggles had left scars, both visible and invisible. But with the shelter's support, he learned how to confront his fears, build new habits, and develop the skills needed to re-enter the workforce. He started with small tasks, like updating his resume and practicing for job interviews. The shelter staff encouraged him, offering positive feedback that made him believe in himself again. One day, after months of effort, Mark landed his first job interview. His heart raced as he walked into the office, unsure of what to expect. But he walked out with more than just an opportunity. He walked out with a job offer, something he hadn't dared to hope for in so long. Mark worked hard, proving to himself and others that he was capable of more than he had ever imagined. With each paycheck, he saved a little more and gradually moved into his own apartment. The steady progress brought him a sense of pride, and for the first time in a long time, Mark felt like he had control over his future. But the journey didn't stop there. Mark had learned from Chris that the true meaning of transformation wasn't just about receiving help, it was about giving it back. He began volunteering at the shelter that had helped him, offering support and encouragement to others who were struggling. When a new person arrived at the shelter, feeling hopeless and lost, Mark would share his story with them, just as Chris had shared his. He wanted them to know that things could get better, that they could rebuild their lives too. Mark's life had come full circle, from being a man on the street to becoming a beacon of hope for others. And every day, he remembered the kindness that had changed his life. As he continued to pay it forward, he knew that the chain of kindness would never end, it would keep growing, one person at a time. If Mark's story resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on how you can make a difference. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of hope and transformation. Together, we can make the world a kinder place, one small act at a time.